Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're at in this big, beautiful world we live in. My name is Kody, and I am the host of Behind the Premium, an exciting new business healthcare podcast that we started to tackle a lot of the tough healthcare conversations around the challenges and costs that face businesses each and every day. Join us as we uncover the real truth behind those premiums, from hidden waste to excessive fees and those annual double-digit premium hikes that no one likes to see this time of year. So let's tune in. We've got a great panelist line up to help us with today's discussion, which is what are the top 3 drivers of 2026 for businesses in relation to healthcare? So let's start. And let's start by introducing a couple of our panelists that we have with us. We'll let the ladies go first. Rhonda, just take about a minute or two and tell us who you are, who you're representing, and let's go there.
Thanks, Kody. Thanks for having me. So my name's Rhonda Nerenberg. I'm the founder of WellTrio. Started about 10 years ago to solve this massive healthcare crisis that we seem to just be adding more money to. And I figured out a way to take money out so that we're not spending as much and valuing each of those healthcare dollars, maximizing them for the benefit of the employee or consumer.
Nice. Well, thank you. Welcome. And if you can't tell, WellTrio is definitely a sponsor of the Behind the Premium podcast. So we are extremely excited to have her. And we'll have a few other members from the WellTrio team on each and every week. But Rhonda, you are always welcome on the show. So next up, we've got Rod from Sunstone HR Consulting. Did I get that name right?
You got it.
Perfect. Why don't you tell us a little bit about you and what you do?
Rod Lacey, I'm the CEO and founder of Sunstone HR Consulting. We are a fractional HR services firm, supporting largely smaller businesses with their part-time VP or director, HR manager types of roles. Full service. I've been doing this since 2017, but I've got 25 or so years in HR leadership roles, all of which were. My first HR role was a benefits guy. And so I've been on the benefits scene since the very beginning of my career. And this is a topic that it pains me every year and it's a struggle every year. So I appreciate the opportunity to be here.
Awesome. Well, welcome. As always, you are welcome back anytime. We love having you guys. Plus, we're going to have a lot of different people from various businesses, business owners, CFOs, CEOs, HR directors and benefits managers, but we definitely have everything covered between these two, I feel like, for today's discussion. So if you are interested in participating in our roundtable discussions, definitely hit us up. We'll leave the email that you can sign up with us down in the description. But let's go ahead and just kick it off for today. So again, today's topic is the top 3 healthcare cost drivers for businesses in 2026. So I guess that's my first question for you guys is what do you think those 3 top drivers are? Feel free to jump in at any time.
Well, one of them is prescription spend.
Prescription spend. Okay, that's a good one. All right. What else? What are your other 2, Rhonda?
It's kind of complex, but probably treatment over prevention. So not maximizing preventative care.
Okay.
And then high cost claims. So the outliers where our value isn't matched with our pricing. We may be spending millions of dollars, but what are we getting for it? So we're definitely not connecting value with price. And if the buyer was the person making the purchase was the person paying for it, we would have a very different system.
That's true. That is very true. It's like we have dad's credit card, right? And we're just going out to the store and basically buying away, right?
Especially for those high claims. What do you think, Rod? What do you think are the top 3?
I'm going to go with, I'll go with your first one for sure. The pharmacy spend. It is, again, I think when we spoke the other day, there's all these fun commercials now where they take the fancy name brand drug and they do flash street mobs and, or flash mobs in the street and dance and have so much fun. And they've done a really good job investing a lot of marketing dollars to try to make us feel like we need all of these prescriptions that solve all the world's issues, and they're extremely expensive. And we all know the influence that media has on our spending habits. So I really think that there's been a big push by the pharmaceutical companies to make their new drugs attractive. We also have our employees asking for medications that they haven't asked for. The weight loss, Ozempics and things like that are on everybody's wish list right now. And so we're getting a request from the employees to expand the pool of things that are covered, which runs up the prices for companies, individuals. So I definitely buy into the first one. I mean, you're right on the money. I don't know that I have a ton of other creative ideas to add. It's just that I think we've got this system where insurance companies are loving to say no to coverage, and it just pushes so much back on the employers and the employees. It just makes it harder and harder. So I don't know if that's any particular topic, because I don't know if it's any worse today than it used to be, but it's always a learning curve for the individuals and the employers. I thought that would be covered. Why isn't this covered? And we got to wait a whole new plan year to design something that gets the people what they feel like they need. And of course that's going to cost more. So anyway, I think you got it just right, but let's maybe start with your list. And there's a lot of things that need to be done.
Oh, there's so much.
Oh, go for it, Rhonda. You wanted to add some more, or go for it?
I agree. It's such a mess. There are only 2 countries in the world that allow drug companies to advertise, and we are one of them. And I think it's criminal. You talked about the people are now asking their doctors for drugs instead of doctors trying to get patients to be compliant.
Yes, definitely. So I do have a specific question around pharma. We'll come back to it. I promise we will. But you mentioned prescriptions, treatment, high cost claims. Those definitely seem to be some of the things that I've heard from business owners as I've talked to them as well over the last couple of weeks. And I'm really curious, going on to our next question that I've got here is how do small businesses differ from large corporations in managing those healthcare cost drivers?
Wow, that is like the question of the year. Both are in deep water. And the small business owner, especially one who has less than 50 employees or even less than 200 employees, they just simply can't compete with what other large corporations are able to offer because they can afford the cost difference.
Right.
And these small companies, I mean, they're legitimate. They're good jobs. They're, salt of the earth kind of people, and they just simply can't afford to double somebody's salary in order to have them have healthcare benefits. And then they just keep going up year after year. Definitely one of the problems I'm trying to address with Welltrio is trying to help those small business owners leverage cash and stop feeding the pharmaceutical companies. Like, it's just a mess.
I would echo exactly that. Most of my clients are small businesses. Most of them are under 100 employees, if not under 50. And so, one catastrophic claim will ruin that next year's reinsurance guaranteed. And so these small businesses are often having to shop around, which creates a changed environment for the employees. And it's too volatile. It's expensive. Again, the small business owners, they've got to be competitive in benefits, but there's not that group that cushions the blow like you might have. Again, now large corporations are paying that much for thousands of employees. So I'm not saying it's easier for them. But the sheer nature of the small employee group it's just so much risk. You literally have to fully insure and then hope and pray, in addition to being fully insured, that you're going to be okay next year.
Yeah.
And I think for me, being a small business owner as well, with multiple businesses throughout the years, has come to the understanding that there are more than just going to an insurance broker and getting a group plan for your company. There's multiple different levels, from level funded to self-funded. There's Section 125s. There's just tons of things. And as a business owner, I definitely get way overwhelmed, especially this time of year, because my employees are asking what's changing, what's our premiums going to be, what's all this going to happen. And some of the times I just throw up my hands and say, go, here's the number of the broker, go call them. Right. And that's being a small business owner, but I can imagine what it's like being a big company with lots of employees as well. So, Rod, from your experience, what kind of data or metrics should HR directors really be tracking to better understand their business's healthcare spend?
That's a great question. And the data available varies based on whether you're self-funded or fully insured. Because I can see, even with a level funding plan, you should be looking at utilization rates and monthly spends to the degree that you're able to get that from your providers or through brokers, and watch the trends. Again, that utilization rate, again, you hope that it can stay low, and you hope that the employees don't have the mindset that when deductibles are met, it's free healthcare, so that you're spending money at the end of the year. And so you look at that, but the trick is you've got to look at it. So many times when you get to smaller organizations, especially if you're fully insured, level pay, you don't worry about it. Just I know what my rates are going to be, and that's the small business CFO likes that. I don't want any volatility. Tell me what it's going to be. You lose a little bit of control, but it creates the stability that the small business hopes for. That's the trade-off. But it's so difficult to get meaningful data. And I feel like the data that we get is less valuable in a fully insured platform than it would be in a self-funded, where we can do more with the design of the plans, what's covered, what's not, et cetera. But yeah, you've got to look at the data. You've got to ask for it. Your brokers will do as much as you ask them to do. And so whoever it is your interface with your insurances, have them get you monthly reports that show utilization, spend on an aggregate level. It will be beneficial if you track it and trend it and share with your executives. This is what's happening. We're trending this way compared to last year. We're 3% ahead. That information is good statistical information that helps you forecast where we might be, a year from now when it comes to a very similar renewal process. So you just ask for more than you're getting today.
Yeah, that makes total sense. Rhonda, over to you. I'm curious your thoughts on this one, because obviously you guys from Well Trio take a more of a proactive approach, and that data is key, where a lot of, like Rod was talking about, brokers and a lot of HR people are looking at claim data, all that kind of cost after the fact. So it's more of a reactive. Kind of curious your thoughts on this from a proactive standpoint.
We definitely take a proactive approach. We try to get in front of those claims before they even happen. We work with employees at least quarterly, so we know when they need a knee replacement, and we help drive them where the best place to go. And I've been in countless quarterly meetings where they're going over all the data, and I love data. And they can throw data at me all day, but if you don't do anything with it, nothing changes. Like, you can see the trends, but what are you doing about it? And I have spent my career trying to figure out how to get in front of those claims, be an in between the buyer and the payer, and help reduce that cost. Because logistically, where you get healthcare can impact cost tremendously. For example, if you're going to an ER because you have a bladder infection, at the time you think it's an emergency, but I guarantee it's not. And you could go to your primary care doctor and it would cost you $100 versus $5,000. So getting in front of that, being the first phone call an employee makes before they decide what to do, is what Well Trio tries to do. A real high touch program that helps direct logistically where care is, so that we're valuing every dollar.
Interesting. So no matter what type of insurance plan that the business might offer, there is a level of data that they can get from either their broker or from their HR team. But there is stuff that they can work off of. It's just if they're willing to get into the weeds and look at it. Is that what I'm hearing from both of you?
It should be easier than it is.
I agree.
And some are better than others. There are groups, like if you want to try to get healthcare data out of any company in Hawaii, you're not going to. It's just aggregate and you can't see what your claims are. Small groups, it's really hard to find claims because if you're grouped in with 1,000 people, they don't want to tell you what your claims are for your 18 people because you may be spending 100% more than you ought to be spending. So sometimes it's very difficult to get claims data.
Yeah, I mean, we all get the data at the end of the year when it's reinsurance time, right? We for some organizations, that's the first data they've seen. Yeah. Is the brokers present, hey, it's time for reinsurance. Here was your spend last year. And it's too late. It's too late in the game if that's when you're looking at it because you haven't had a chance to influence forecast. I mean, finance would never do that with investments, but yet we have one of the biggest expenses of the organization. Many organizations, they just let it ride for the whole year and they wait to see what the results are at the end of the year. And they embrace and accept whatever that increase might be as I guess it is. Let's figure out how we're going to do it. There's a better way. There's a better way. And if more information is available, generally speaking, it doesn't need to be just the year-end review that you get. That's too late in the game.
That makes sense. That makes total sense. So, Rhonda, kind of jumping back to something that you asked and going back to the pharma question that we had earlier. How does pharmaceutical pricing affect a business's benefits and budget? And I'm kind of curious, like you said, you take a proactive approach. How would you address this question?
Oh my goodness, pharmacy. Education is probably the foundation, helping the employee know what they're buying. Trulicity, the GLP-1s are advertised. They advertise as they 99% have an A1C below 7% after 1 year and less heart disease. What they're not saying is that it's the same as with metformin, which is a $3 drug. And the heart rate is reduced, but it's only like by 0.3%. And you have to treat 350 people for 3 years to have one less non-fatal heart event. And it'll cost you $3 million to do it. So, and metformin is just as effective and it's $3, but it's not advertised. And there's, it's generic galore. So educating the patient, you don't have to take injectables at the cost of about $500 a pound to lose. You can do other things, even helping them know that they don't have to have these chronic conditions. Chronic conditions can be put into remission with proper education and understanding how your body works. So we do a lot of that foundational education, how your body works, and do we want to treat root cause, or do we want to put drugs in our system? Now, I am a nurse. I am all for the drug when it's needed as a crutch. But when we have these chronic conditions, at some point, there's something better we could do.
Yeah, sounds like it. Rod, what's your thoughts?
I'll just, again, she does such a good job. It's tough to add to that. But I'll say one of the biggest disservices we do to all of the employees in every company is we set these big insurance guides in front of them. You have 3 choices. You've got 4.8 minutes to make this choice. I'm exaggerating a little bit, but think of it. Every new hire, they're brand new to your company. The single most complex thing we show them in their first 2 days is, I want you to make an insurance choice, make an informed insurance choice. And they're looking through 50 items on the page because it's a wonderful summary, including pharmacy, right? It says tier 1, tier 2, or however they decide to classify it and how they're going to pay. They don't know what that means. So the education we give is inadequate, and so I've always been an advocate for, renewal meetings, it's open enrollment meeting and even a more extensive employee onboarding experience where we do our best. but that's a one time a year event for most people. It's not enough. And so it takes more. It takes education. I've been preaching, generics and, formulary equivalents and 90-day supplies and, mail order, every possible way that you might be able to save money on pharmacy. I've been preaching that for as long as these options have been available, but yet it's just too little. It's too little education. It's just not in front of the employees as often as these wonderful, flash mob commercials where I've got to have this wonderful drug to feel that happy, and so, yeah, and I have had employees say it where we've said, we've actually declined, in other form, where employees had their prescription declined because it was one of those very expensive new drugs. We've shown evidence through our TPAs that, hey, it is a formulary equivalent of this generic drug for $3. No. I need that one. And it's just not formulating. And it's an education thing, to Rhonda's point.
So
Right.
I've got to bring up this. I was recently in a webinar, and they had done a survey, and they were presenting the survey results. They had surveyed 500 physicians across the United States, and the physicians used to complain about, we want insurance to get out of our way, and their biggest concern is having patients be compliant. They prescribe something, trying to get the patient to take it. But with these advertising, here's how effective they are. 90% of the physicians surveyed said that they hope that the approval process will be denied. They know it's not the best drug for their patient, but they don't want to be the bad guy. So they go off to get prior approval and hope that it's denied. That's really messed up.
That is. Oh my gosh,
they don't want to be the gatekeeper. They don't want to be the bad guy. So they'll prescribe it knowing it's not the best choice for their client.
Well, and then even to Rod's point, you've got these doctors that will prescribe a certain branded pill, and the patient is now thinking, okay, my doctor prescribed it. This is the only thing that I'm going to use, right? So I'm on a pill that I've been taking for years and years, and it is amazing because my deductible was $400 a month, and that was my copay on it, right? And so for me, being overseas, I had to get it filled because I was overseas for 3 months, and I had to get the same pill over there, exact same pill. It was just off on the coloring, but it was the same name, same everything, and it was only $80 with cash, no insurance. And it just blew my mind how much of a cost difference even the same pill was in different countries, right? So I think that I would agree with you guys that pharma is definitely one area where education and also sourcing could definitely come into play there, which is just awesome. So we talked about one strategy, but that kind of leads into my next kind of question that I have here. What strategies do you guys suggest to control rising healthcare costs and expenses? And we've already said education. So what other ways are there, or strategies that you guys use to kind of move the needle in that area?
I'll start because I think Rhonda will take my first point if I don't say it first. She always just nails it so well.
Nice.
It's all about being preventative, and it always has been. And so, even before the Affordable Care Act said that we had to have first dollar coverage for preventative treatments, that was something that I tried to build into all my plans. And I brought nurses and physicians into my companies and offered, on-site wellness exams. Sometimes we made that part of open enrollment and had a special little prize or something if you participated in it. But those are some of the most rewarding experience I've ever had, where people, for the first time in their adult life, took advantage of those wellness opportunities that were free, but they took advantage of them. They learned they had a condition. They learned they were near to have a condition. We even rushed a couple people to the hospital from these exams. They felt fine, they thought. But point is, it's all about being preventative. If we can be ahead of the conditions, find things before they start, be well, and again, that's the cost management process. There is be healthy, be well, and I think adding to that and a little outside of I guess the healthcare spend, prioritize yourself, prioritize your health, take time for you to be healthy, and whether that's getting up early in the morning to do something, a hobby, an exercise or something, but make sure that the stress and busyness of everyday life doesn't consume you to the point that you're not taking care of yourself. Because if you're not well, you can't deliver at anything else that's stressing you out during the rest of your day.
Makes sense. That was a good one. I can see why you went first. The low-hanging fruit. So let's shift it over to Rhonda.
Rhonda's whole business is built about being preventative, that's been my go-to because it's solid. It's the way you do it.
No, totally makes sense. Totally makes sense. Rhonda, it's over to you.
You were spot on. So Welltrio meets at least quarterly with every employee face-to-face, and we're talking about things that they can do and that they feel like they can do, not somebody assigns to you or you need to do this, but what is something you feel like you could do? And then we tie that to incentives. So we make it painful not to participate. And then we're talking about it again, and we're talking about it again. And we're looking at the data, and we're trying to have a trusted healthcare advisor on your business team, because it's probably the second largest expense behind salary in any given company, and nobody's looking at it through the healthcare eyes. So that's definitely an important piece. Prevention is so powerful. And the education, but you said we can talk about education. It's just so much of what we do. There are some things that we can't get in front of. You can't get in front of a congenital heart defect, and it's going to cost you $500,000 or more. You can't get in front of a premature baby, but you can get in front of chronic disease, and chronic disease drives about 90% of our costs. And helping people understand that is just huge at reducing cost, and helping them know how to use their plan. 60% of the population don't even know what a co-insurance is. And I actually advocate for having a low copay plan for not just preventative, but for the urgent care and primary care, like primary care for free, because primary care is cheap. And if they can do that and access that, then they prevent the urgent care emergency room visits. So I really try to manipulate copays so that they're incentivized to get that care early. When you have a high deductible plan, you're actually de-incentivizing. My kid has an earache, but I have to pay $500. What should I do? Like, well, you can wait till it ruptures, or we can make that more easy to access for the employee.
Yeah, no, that makes total sense. When it comes to preventative, I like your guys' thoughts and approach on that for a strategy. I've participated in a couple of employer healthcare things around preventative, and one of them was telehealth. So that leads me to my next question is what are the hidden costs shown with telehealth that businesses should be aware of? Because it may be free to the employees, but there is definitely a cost on the back end of things. So is it effective? Is it really worth the money? That's my question for you two. Who wants to go first? Go for it.
You go first, Rhonda.
So with Welltrio, we drive people to telehealth. And so it's worth it because they are managing logistics. They're saying, actually, we can take care of this right now, or actually you can wait till morning, or an urgent care is appropriate. And then sometimes ER is appropriate. But if you just have it sitting there and nobody knows about it, nobody knows how to use it, that's not going to be impactful at all. And you're going to be spending for something you're not using. But I just did a survey with some of my smaller groups, and I asked, you have this service. Were you aware of it? And the answers were, yes, I was aware of it. I've used it. Yes, I was aware of it. I haven't used it. And no, I wasn't aware of it. And 100% were either aware of it and hadn't used it or had used it. Like that
Wow.
is how you get to drive people to telehealth. All of the employees know about it.
Yeah. And I would agree that I feel like it's a good option because I think it allows us to be a little more proactive. And I'll give just my own example. I've been a busy executive for most of my career, and I've had walking pneumonia twice because I didn't have time to get to an Instacare or my doc during the business days. And so at a telehealth, I mean, I was on a family trip in Oregon and did telehealth and got an antibiotic, for strep throat. And it's like, but it was so effective and easy. I didn't have to go out of network to an ER, so, all the ways I could have escalated costs because I was out of state. I used my plan's telehealth and it was in network. And I think, for years, we've been trying to drive employees' choices through plan design, right? Mm-hmm. And so, Rhonda brought up a minute ago about co-pays for your primary care physicians. And, we need to motivate people to do the right things. This is so much better than running to the ER or doing something like that. That I'm okay if employers motivate employees to go to telehealth. Sure, it is healthcare. There's a cost for it, but I've been steering people away from the ER and away from some of these other expensive things forever. So I tend to promote it and speak highly of it.
Interesting. I do have to share, I was with one company, I won't say who it was with, but they did a healthcare challenge for 3 months. They gave us each almost like it was a knockoff Fitbit kind of thing. And I'm like, hey, this is pretty cool as an employee, thinking, hey, this is pretty cool because they're giving me this to count my steps, watch my heart, all this kind of stuff. And we even had a BPM kind of measure at the end of it as well. And they were giving away some huge cash incentives. So, those kind of things I could thank the HR department for coming up with. But lo and behold, I found out that it was actually being used to help lower the premiums of the upcoming year because they were trying to show the insurance company provider that they were actually making proactive steps to increase health, increase happiness and of their employees and everything like that, so that they could get a lower discount on their premium. For me, I was like, okay, after the fact, but during the whole process, I was very, very intrigued. I thought it was way cool that they would think about us like this, but how do you kind of justify and measure that gamification of healthcare in the industry, I guess? Any thoughts on that?
I'll take the HR side of it. So I want our employees to be well for multiple reasons, right? Again, having been an HR leader, I care about the employees. That's legitimate. That's true. I want them to be healthy, be well. When they're healthy and well, life is better, productivity is up, engagement is up. There aren't the distractions. I mean, when someone is ill and can't be there or comes to work sick or whatever it is, you're not your best and everybody suffers as a result. And so I want employees to be well. Also, it's a cost thing. To Rhonda's point, I'm looking at one of the single biggest expenses of the organization that I truly can't control. I do my best, right? But I can't control it. And so I want people to be well for that reason too. So there are opportunities to run incentives and programs. The rules have changed since the Affordable Care Act, where it's largely participation driven now. But if you can educate and drive the right behaviors for people, I mean, you can change lives. You literally can. So, but it needs to be the right incentive. It needs to be for the right reasons. Your example of kind of making a presentation for reinsurance by, making a point. I've run, little pedometer step contests before and had brown bag seminars every month for a year where we talk wellness topics. I've had nurses and others come in to talk to employees. I've had Weight Watchers on site that was subsidized by the organization. We've tried a little bit of everything. And I really think it's worth investing in the health of the people, but you need to be careful that you do it because you care. You do it because you want them to be healthy, period. Sure, you're managing expense, but the expense management should be secondary. We should be driving health, good practices, because we care about the people first. And then when the expenses are lower later, wonderful. But we need to do the right things for the right reason.
That makes sense. Rhonda, I know you're itching to jump in.
I am. So I've been doing this for about 10 years. Prior to that, I was just a surgical nurse. That's what I did prior to that. I've always been passionate about nutrition. I got a master's degree in it because I love it. Initially, I ran all the brown bag seminars. I did all the raffles. I did so many participation engagement activities. And for me, it just simply was not effective. The same 10%, if you get that much to participate in all of them. And they are not the people that you need to talk to. So by putting in place an incentive to come talk to a healthcare provider or a coach on a quarterly basis, I got to speak with, or one of my team got to speak with, anybody who wanted to save a significant amount on their premium or have contributions to their HSA. And then it was impactful, because initially there was a lot of pushback. They don't want to come see you. They don't want to participate, because they're in the 90% who wouldn't participate in any of those things anyway. But very quickly you become a confidant and you become a trusted advisor. And then they're stopping in and speaking with you more than quarterly, and they're actually making changes. Much more impactful for me than all of the wellness things. Let's slice apples and dice carrots. Just did not work for me.
No, that sounds good. I totally get that, because being an employee, I would probably do it for about 3 days, and then I would probably become one of those people that needed to be in the brown bag meeting that wasn't there. But I appreciate the effort, but it just isn't top priority for me at the present point in time. But so I can appreciate that. That kind of leads me to, go ahead.
I just want to follow up. I worked with this company. They had about 300 employees, and they had a lot of holidays revolve around food, and it was a big deal. The company would bring in food for certain events throughout the year. And there was a big concern, this wellness program, they're going to take my food away. I'm like, no, I'm not going to take anything away. But people began, as they were meeting quarterly with my team, they began to request changes. Well, you guys are doing this big event. Can you have something additional that's maybe a little healthier? So then people were bringing in alternatives. And then eventually the culture just shifted, and the events changed to, it still was revolving around these holidays, but they were on how healthy we could get them, which was really fun to see, because we didn't take anything away from anybody. They made that change. They made that request, and then the culture changed. So
that's awesome. I'll have to get the name of that company after this, because I plan my vacations around food places. So my family's always excited to go to Disneyland. I'm like, great, I'm going to go get a corn dog here. I'm going to go get this there. And I would probably fit in really, really well with that company. But you guys made up some great topics and about getting people healthier. But we all know that there are those that, wrong question, my bad. I'm sorry, I can't read. When it comes to chronic diseases management, how does that play when you're trying to get people healthy, but then there's just that group of people that you just can't, that seem to take up the bulk of the budget every year? What are some good tactics, or what are some things, data points to look out for to be proactive in this?
Well, GLP-1s are not the answer. So
good to know.
That's what all the fun dancing in the street with all my friends ads want you to think. But they are not the answer. Chronic disease can be managed and can be put into remission. I won't say reversed or cured, because but I have worked with many, many, many people who were able to get off of their medications and not be considered chronically ill anymore. And so it starts with, so many people feel stuck. I mean, they're in this complicated system. They don't know how it works. They're doing what their doctor says, if they get to the doctor at all. And the system is letting them down, because that doctor, who, if you are really determined and faithful and you go do primary care every year, your doctor is going to say your blood work's normal for 20 years. And then they go, oh, you're type 2 diabetic, and you'll walk out of there with 3 prescriptions. I guarantee they could see it coming 15 years earlier, but they didn't know what to do about it. So they said it's normal. And it's not normal.
Yeah.
And so I look at blood work. I love blood work. That's my data. And I say, look, you are not diabetic, but if you continue on the path you're on right now, you will be. And we don't have to go there. This is not something that has to be part of your history. So what would you like to do about it? Just, there's so much we can do. And we're letting people down by not teaching them that early.
Yeah, I would agree with that. All right, Rod, fill us in.
I don't know that I have as scientific of an answer for this, because, again, I'm not on the medical side, but I do know that, again, it's that old principle where 20% of your people constitute 80% of your costs, and that's just it. That's the way it is in healthcare, and this is the group that constitutes much of it. I think they've got to take care of themselves. And I think to Rhonda's point, they walk out with this potpourri box full of meds that they're going to be taking for the next 15 years. There's no second opinions. There's no one that's following up. The doctor says, how you feeling? You feeling good? Okay, let's just keep doing what we're doing. And that really just kind of maintains. It doesn't improve. It doesn't change the situation. So it's about finding ways to get them to do a little more, to think a little differently, to explore new options, to come out of that cycle, because it's too easy to take that fistful of pills for the rest of your life and just be content with your chronic condition. We ought to be motivating people to try to move out of that or improve that the best they can. But our system just holds them steady.
Yeah, I would agree with that. How do you in my mind, there's three types of employees when it comes to healthcare. It's the ones that are just like you said, Rod, the ones that'll just take the handful of pills that their doctor prescribes, go on and show up each and every single day, right? Then you got the ones that are kind of taking the pills, but also open to the holistic side of things, looking for alternatives. And then, as Rhonda knows, the good old cowboys that don't want to say anything to anybody about whatever's going on. They won't even see a doctor, but they will see a doctor when their limbs falling off, they're practically dead, they can't move, and they finally give in and have to go to the doctor. And to Rhonda's point, congratulations, you have type 2 diabetes, you're going to be on insulin or whatever it's going to be for the rest of your life, which could have been prevented. So how do you kind of motivate these employees? Because like you said, you want to try to help make them as healthy as possible. From a business standpoint, an owner wants happy, healthy employees because they're more productive. But from an HR standpoint, how do you kind of motivate these people through the education, through the proactiveness of it? What's your thoughts on that?
So Rhonda gave us the formula without actually calling out the specific application. So let me share with you my experience, a real experience, where we made wellness exams available for every employee during our open enrollment period. And it was participation based. Everyone can participate. If you don't participate, there's a significant increase in your premiums for next year. Okay. So we motivated over 90% of our employees to have a wellness exam during open enrollment. This is an employer of over 1,000 people. And it was one of the single most rewarding experiences in my HR career, which is interesting because I've been in HR a long time, because we truly helped people. We people that had not had, the cowboys had to do this. They had no choice, because Everyone wants to save money. Everyone wants lower premiums. That was like an all-encompassing motivator right there. All they had to do was go through the exercise. It didn't matter what the results were. They get your wellness exam, and then we had people there to talk with them about, not they weren't employees, they had nurses, qualified people to talk about the results, and we had programs like for the treatment of chronic diseases and big exposures that we had lined up for the people that tested poorly. And so, I never knew who tested poorly. All I ever knew was I kind of knew the couple of people that passed out when their blood was being drawn because I was a first responder. But that's like literally the only health condition I became aware of in the whole process. But it was motivating employees to do the right thing. And again, you had to have the right carrot out there, and people are very protective of the paychecks. And it was an easy hurdle, but it was a meaningful hurdle they had to get over.
Makes sense.
So,
all right, Rhonda.
I absolutely agree. There has to be a carrot. Financial incentive drives participation, and then trust, and then you don't need the incentive anymore. But initially, that participation is driven by it's painful not to participate financially. That's how you get people to participate. And the awesome thing about WellTrio is you have that intervention from day one. They're doing the same, routine physicals and blood work, and then you're following up with them at least quarterly. And they're learning about why their blood sugar was 98 and should be closer to 80. And they're learning why their cholesterol is a little high. And we had lots of people quit smoking. This pilot company that I did, my first client, they didn't know it, but they were incentivizing smoking. They had a smoke deck with heaters and games, and fans when it was hot outside. And that's where you went for your break. And if you wanted to be part of the group, you went out and smoked. And I was like, okay, that has to, you go outside by your car if you want to smoke. That we have to stop incentivizing smoking. And we had like 80% of our smokers quit because they were just doing it socially. They just wanted to be part of the fun group outside, playing games and puffing on their cigarette. Awesome. It was crazy.
Yeah. Well, I think to Rod's point, if they would have just offered Red Bull and Pop-Tarts, I would have been there in a heartbeat. And I think that would have attracted a lot of those brown baggers that didn't even show up as well. So, hey, come get your donut and we'll check your blood sugar and your blood while you're at it. But you can have your donut after.
That is one. Food is also a good motivator, but but not in this situation.
Yep. No, all great points. So I think the next question, we're kind of coming to the top of the hour, and I want to be mindful to you guys. I want to thank you for, again, participating in today's podcast. It's been a great discussion. I think we've established some good things. We'll recap here in just a minute. But, one of the questions that I do have for you is just what is the biggest misconception for businesses about controlling their healthcare costs? For me, being a small business owner, again, going and just basically going through my broker, picking A, B, C, or D, knowing what that set cost is for that year. I have no idea that I could save money, even at that level, not even just clear down to the self-funded route as well. That sounds like there's some major savings that could go on there. But curious your guys' thoughts on those two things. Or that thing.
Rod, do you want to go first?
Sure. For one, I think the general business owner doesn't know how much control they actually have in plan design, plan development. There are so many things that can be done in what you offer to employees that you can control, and it gives you greater predictability, greater control over what your year is going to be like, what your expenses are going to be like, what your renewals are going to be like. I think far too often, again, we wait for the annual report from the broker that comes in October, that we look at reinsurance rates. We shrug our shoulders, say, okay, we'll take these three plans. Again, you wouldn't, if it was, let's say we've got a $1 million spend there. You wouldn't spend $1 million anywhere else in the world and wait for the end of the year to look at that report to see what you want to do next year. You don't, but we do that way too often. So I think the business owner needs to know they can get involved. They can look at reports that are available. They just need to ask for them. HR can get better at forecasting and planning and sharing insights. But again, the whole plan design process, that plan that lasts you the whole year, there's a lot that can be influenced to make the consumerism better, to make this, again, and help control the expenses, give people the care they need, but drive the traffic and educate people in the right way.
Perfect.
So I see that businesses are kind of addicted or drawn into this routine that we've created where a broker brings you 3 plans that they've picked out of thousands and says, do you want A, B, or C? They don't know what they're picking. They don't really understand the consequences or what the details are, but it's easier to just stay in this machine than to try to do something different. You can imagine trying to find an apartment in New York City and only having 3 options. And then getting into an apartment and every single year the lease goes up, but you just don't want to move. Where there's thousands of options and so many different ways you can manipulate. There's many options in that brokers don't bring to you. Reference-based pricing and ICRA plans. I mean, there's so many options, but we just kind of stay in this status quo and it's just hard to move. HR particularly, I don't know if you think that's true, Rod, but HR doesn't want to make their employees move. So they just stay with the status quo and keep paying more into this machine that's not going to get better unless you start unpacking it, looking at it, and figuring out what is actually driving the costs.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, just prepping for a lot of the podcasts that we have coming up, there is a lot of information that I need to learn as a business owner, as well as within the insurance place. Usually when I go and I get my insurance, it's like, okay, hon, your turn. This is your area of expertise. I'm going to go work and do some other stuff while you take care of this and just tell me what we need to do. And I have more sympathy and empathy for her as during this time of year, she's going through and selecting a lot of that stuff outright. So, but yeah, thanks again, you two, for joining us. So just to recap, we have top 3 choices: pharma, high costs claims, and treatment. What was that one? Treatment and what did you say it was? Treatment and something.
It's really educating.
Well, I think that education, proactiveness, and follow-up are the game savers.
Yep.
Rather than the high cost drivers. Maybe let's focus on those savers. So education, proactive engagement, as well as follow-up. And I would even go as far as saying follow-up / accountability, right? Holding those employees to those step goals that they set, or the BPMs, measures that they want to achieve, and do everything in your power to do that. So are we in agreement that those would be the top 3?
Yes.
Yep. Okay, great. Perfect. So I have one more question. I'm going to throw it out to each of you. And then after you're done answering, I want you to just give a plug for your companies, of what you guys do, how people can get in contact with you if they are interested in having you guys' services. And we will throw those in the descriptions as well, so that you can get in contact with both Rod and Rhonda as well. So here's the final question. What proactive things should businesses be doing right now to prepare for 2026? Since it's open enrollment,
it is
for most companies.
They need to consider moving. If we use that analogy with an apartment in New York, moving is probably your best option if you keep having increased rent. If your premiums continue to rise year over year, you're not in a good program, and you're not actually looking at utilization, logistically how things are used. You're probably way overspending on pharmaceutical. So you need to consider moving, changing plans. It's painful initially, but it's totally worth it if you have the right person managing it on the back end. And that's where I can plug WellTrio. If you're interested in having healthcare professionals manage some of those nightmares that the HR was never intended to manage, they can go to welltrio.com and we do a free assessment. Just upload a little bit of information. We'll look at it, tell you where you compare to industry, geographically and size-wise compared to other people, what they're spending, and what we think we could save you by implementing some of these strategies. And there's no obligation, no cost. And if we can't save you money, we'll tell you. So welltrio.com.
Perfect. And that's for anybody that's on a group plan all the way up to a self-funded plan can get that same assessment done, correct?
Absolutely.
Perfect. All right. Well, thanks again, Rhonda. It was a pleasure having you on. Rod, last but not least, hit her home.
What I would do, because I'm going to assume that the brokers are already in contact with the HR team, and the HR team has already presented to the CFO. We've got another increase this year. So I would agree with Rhonda that if you can change, there are options out there. But assuming we're sitting on that, we've got open enrollment meetings scheduled, I would do whatever I could to get employees motivated to take their annual wellness exams. Have them do it before the end of January, have some incentives out there. Again, if we're stuck with the old plan for another year, which we may be at this point, let's make the best of it and let's find out about people's health. Let's get them healthy and well, get them focused on treating conditions before they become illnesses. And so that's what I would say. Again, Rod, Sunstone HR, general HR consulting, everything from guiding you through benefit decisions to employee relations, compensation, HR payroll systems. Sunstonehr.co is where you could find out more about what we do.
All right. Well, thanks again, you two. We appreciate you. And we appreciate everybody that's listening in live as well as on the recording as well. So tune in each and every Wednesday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard, 4 p.m. Mountain Standard Time for each episode. We've got some great lineups of people coming. Again, CEOs, CFOs, HR directors, benefits managers, Rhonda and Trio team will be here to discuss all these hot topics and the pain points that are facing businesses today. So thank you again. We appreciate it. And we will catch you guys on the next one. See you, everybody.
Thank you, Rod.
Thank you.